Okay, let's dig into this. It feels like a pretty intense situation brewing, or maybe allegedly brewing.
Right. We're looking at an audio recording here. It's from Right Wing News.
Yeah, and it's discussing an article from True Pundit.
Mm-hmm. And the claims, well, they're quite something.
Explosive is probably the word. Talking
Yep.
about a federal coup.
Allegedly plotted by the FBI's Deputy Director, Andrew McCabe, and other senior FBI people.
Targeting General Flynn first, and then President Trump. It's
Yeah.
it's the kind of headline that definitely grabs you.
It really does. But it also makes you want to, understand the actual substance, what exactly is being claimed here.
Exactly. And that's our goal today, right? To lay out these pretty serious allegations, give you the core info, but without adding layers of speculation ourselves. Just report what the source says.
Yeah, stick to the source material.
When I first encountered this, I mean, it gives you a jolt, doesn't it? There's concern, but also, a need for some healthy skepticism.
Absolutely. Because if any significant part of this is true, the implications are just massive.
Huge. So the core of it, this alleged plot.
Okay, so according to this True Pundit article, as reported in the audio, McCabe supposedly got a group together, more than a dozen senior FBI officials.
And this was just before Flynn was dismissed.
That's the timeline given and the alleged reason for the meeting. To coordinate undermining Flynn and then, ultimately, President Trump.
And the language they claim was used, it's pretty raw.
Very raw. The source quotes McCabe, allegedly in a raised voice, saying, well, the quote is, F Flynn and then we F Trump.
Wow. And the reaction.
The report says applause and cheers from the others there.
Okay. And the source then labels this terrorism.
Yeah, that's the interpretation offered. Because the argument goes, it's using threats, weaponizing their positions, essentially, for political goals.
That's a significant framing, applying terrorism to internal government maneuvering.
It is. It's definitely broadening the typical understanding of the term. It paints a picture of, a faction within the FBI leadership acting way outside their lane, driven by politics.
And it wasn't just one meeting, they claim.
The source asserts this was one of maybe 16 similar high-level meetings since Trump's election, suggests a sustained effort.
Which leads us straight into this whole deep state idea.
Right, or as the source puts it, maybe for people who don't like that term.
The non-elected hierarchy.
Exactly, that term. The audio really pushes this view that the FBI, the intelligence community more broadly, or at least parts of it, were against Trump from day one.
They mention a reporter asking about the deep state and it being kind of dismissed, but the source prefers these other terms.
Yeah, like Obama-era intelligence community or that non-elected hierarchy phrase. It maybe sounds a bit less, I don't know, conspiratorial.
Focuses more on the structure, the lack of direct accountability.
I think that's the idea. It frames it as powerful, unelected people within the system wielding influence, maybe improperly. It helps build this narrative without necessarily using the more loaded deep state term.
And the claim is this group declared war on Trump and his team.
Yes, declared war. And the source predicts more people would be pushed out. An ongoing fight, basically.
Okay, let's talk about General Flynn, because he's central to this alleged plot.
Right. The source is adamant Flynn did nothing wrong.
They use that analogy, don't they? Like going 57 in a 55 zone.
Exactly. A minor infraction, if anything. The argument is his conversation with the Russian ambassador, before he officially took office.
Where he apparently said something like, just wait till I'm in office.
Yeah. The source says that wasn't illegal negotiation. It was just stating future intent. Perfectly normal, they argue.
And they suggest President Obama knew Flynn was being surveilled.
That's part of the narrative, yes.
Yeah.
Framing it all as a setup.
So Flynn's resignation, in this view, wasn't admitting guilt.
No, not at all. It was presented as him falling on his sword, taking responsibility to avoid becoming a distraction for the new administration.
So portraying Flynn as the victim really bolsters the whole conspiracy narrative against Trump.
It absolutely does. If Flynn is innocent and was targeted, it makes the claims about a wider plot seem more plausible within their framework. Downplaying the legal questions around his actions is key to that.
And the Obama knowledge claim just adds another layer of alleged coordination.
Right. Makes the supposed plot seem bigger.
What about James Comey, the FBI director at the time? What's the source say about his role?
Well, the report is that Comey didn't actually attend these alleged plotting meetings.
Okay,
But the source claims he knew about them, he was aware, and didn't do anything to stop them.
And then there's the issue of McCabe's promotion.
Yes, the source heavily criticizes Comey for appointing McCabe as the #2 guy after the previous deputy director retired. Given these alleged meetings, McCabe was supposedly leading.
So the implication is Comey was complicit, or at least enabling it.
That's clearly the suggestion. Tacit approval, maybe? Or just turning a blind eye. Either way, the source uses it to question Comey's integrity, linking it also to how he handled the Clinton investigation.
Okay, and that brings us to McCabe himself and the conflict of interest claims. This is pretty specific stuff.
Very specific. The source alleges that Democratic groups tied to a Hillary Clinton insider.
Terry McAuliffe, usually.
Right, that connection is often made. That groups linked there gave nearly $700,000 to McCabe's wife for her political campaign.
And the timing is key here.
Crucial, according to the source. They claim these contributions happened while McCabe was overseeing the FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails.
And the accusation is that he lobbied against charging her.
That's the direct accusation reported in the source material, yes.
So they're drawing a pretty direct line. Money comes in, investigation gets handled, perhaps favorably.
That's exactly the connection the source wants you to make. They highlight the amount, the timing, the alleged lobbying. It's all presented to suggest political bias influenced by these funds.
And they bring up other things too, right? Like Loretta Lynch meeting Bill Clinton on the tarmac.
Yeah, and the FISA warrant application process, it's all woven together to paint a picture of a compromised system. Lots of rhetorical questions about coincidences.
Which then leads to frustration, expressed in the source, about, well, accountability.
Yeah.
Or the lack of it.
Right. A real sense of why haven't these people been indicted? Why aren't they in jail if all this is true?
Yeah, questions aimed at President Trump, actually. Is he unwilling or unable to act? Is his supporters' faith misplaced?
That focus on the lack of consequences really hammers home the source's belief in how serious the alleged conspiracy was, and it probably speaks directly to listeners who feel the same frustration.
Kind of keeps the pressure on, maybe.
Could be.
Yeah.
Galvanizes the base, keeps the issue alive.
And the conversation in the source material really widens out. Broader implications.
Yeah, it gets quite stark, this alleged FBI plot. The source calls it just one of potentially several existing coups happening.
Coups. Plural.
That's the term used. Raises serious concern about, these unelected officials, the non-elected hierarchy again.
With access to secrets, weapons.
Exactly. And supposedly in revolt against the sitting president. That's a very alarming picture.
And it escalates even further. Talk of martial law.
Mm-hmm. The source predicts this could all escalate to the point where martial law might be declared. They define it as something a president can just do unilaterally in an emergency.
And practical warnings, too.
Huh.
About supplies.
Yes, a specific warning. Potential shortages of supplies within 72 hours if martial law hits. Be prepared, basically.
And mentions of secret documents.
Yeah, claims of links to documents about government plans. One specific mention of a U.S. Army CI civilian inmate labor program. Really out there stuff.
And the punchline is, you're not hearing this from mainstream media.
Right. The source positions itself as providing essential, valuable information that's being suppressed elsewhere. That's a common theme.
The core message seems to be deep, deep distrust.
Distrust of institutions, belief in an imminent crisis, and the idea that you, the listener, are getting the hidden truth.
And then, naturally, there's a call to action at the end of the source audio.
Yep. Share the info, sign up for the channel, standard practice.
And a plug for a product, get the tea.
Right. Mention the referral. Helps fund the operation, presumably. Important context to remember.
So just to wrap up the core claims we've unpacked from this source, it's a narrative of a secret FBI plot led by McCabe against Flynn and Trump.
Characterized as a coup by a non-elected hierarchy.
A strong defense of Flynn, portraying him as a victim.
Criticisms of Comey for alleged inaction and promoting McCabe.
Serious conflict of interest allegations against McCabe tied to his wife's campaign funds and the Clinton probe.
Frustration about a lack of indictments or consequences.
And then these wider, quite alarming warnings about ongoing coups, potential martial law, and hidden government plans.
It's a very dense, complex, and frankly disturbing set of claims presented in this source material.
It really is. This deep dive gives you a concentrated look at a narrative alleging profound misconduct and bias high up in the FBI.
Challenges the integrity of key figures, raises big questions about how government functions or allegedly malfunctions.
So, thinking about all this, these claims, regardless of their ultimate truth, what does it mean for public trust? Trust in law enforcement, trust in the political process itself.
That's the big question lingering, isn't it? How do allegations like these, presented so forcefully, affect people's faith in the institutions?
It's definitely something to ponder. We really encourage you, as always, keep exploring, look at different sources, and form your own informed opinions.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.